We're live in 10 seconds. Good afternoon and welcome to a brand spanking new segment, rather obviously titled In Conversation With. A segment specially designed to showcase the backstories of individuals who have made an impact. Now, who can resist an hour of tete-a-tete over a cup of tea on a fine Saturday afternoon? Well, during this hour, we will delve into a conversation around stories that need to be told of modern-day icons. Luminary Learning Solutions crafted this segment so you, our audience, can be inspired to truly thrive. Well, I'm Anton Thayalan, and I will be your host this afternoon, and we'll take you through an hour of free-flowing discussion. For today's segment on In Conversation With, it is my privilege to introduce Justin Key, a professionally trained and working actor, an artist, a D&I consultant, a published author, entertainment entrepreneur, writer, and speaker based in Los Angeles, California. Originally from Rossville, Tennessee, he studied in the prestigious American Conservatory Theatre in San Francisco, and he now holds the title of alumnus with some of the conservatory's most successful graduates, namely Denzel Washington, Elizabeth Banks, Benjamin Bratt, Danny Glover, and Winona Ryder. His features include BET, Comedy Central, PBS, Amazon Prime, Black Enterprise, and notable print campaigns for Walmart, Rostos, Burlington, and a host of others. His first book is called Mind Control. Change the way you think so you can live a limitless life. He has been an entrepreneur for over a decade and an entrepreneurship professor for over 6 years. A top 40 under 40 recipient, Key to the City recipient, international speaker, and a Black Enterprise 2019 Man of Distinction, a math whiz, an entrepreneurship enthusiast, travel fanatic, and HBCU advocate. And there's a lot more. We need a lot more time. But please welcome Justin Key. Good afternoon, and how are you, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you. I really appreciate you all having me on.
Justin, thank you for being with us. It is an absolute honor. I do want to start in sort of building a context and to give everyone a glimpse of your normative years. Take us through the background, some memories. What was it like growing up, Justin Key?
You know, growing up was very interesting. So I'm the 8th of 9 kids. So I grew up on my grandparents' farm in Tennessee. So it was just a whole different world from, I guess, friends at school and also what we see on television. So I had to feed the hogs before the bus came to pick us up in the morning. When it was harvest season, of course, we had to pick corn and greens and peas and things of that nature. So just that whole farm life. And it was very simple. We grew all of our food, we raised all the animals. It was a really surreal event. Right now, everything is organic, and we were organic before organic was a thing. I was a kid, so I didn't really think anything about that. But it was just interesting growing up in a 2-bedroom trailer with my 8 siblings and my mom, and just that whole life. It was very interesting. I appreciate it now, but as a child, you know, I didn't really think too much about it. You know, racing and playing barefoot with my cousins and swimming in the pond as a kid, and it was just a very simple country life, I would say, and I enjoyed it, and I'm so happy. And it shaped so much of who I am, because coming from those very humble beginnings, and so now living in Hollywood, it really taught me to appreciate where I am right now.
Fair enough. So I'm taking you back a little bit. And obviously, the saying goes that every challenge that you face makes you stronger. Tell us a little bit about some of the most key challenges you faced in your life that helped you build who you are today.
One of the main challenges was a lack of resources, and just I didn't have access to a lot. So when you think about growing up in a very rural area, we didn't have the access to the big city. We didn't have access to the best education. And so it taught me really how to be creative. We didn't have internet back then. Well, there was internet, but we didn't have a computer. We couldn't afford one. We didn't have cable television. We only watched,
Sure.
we only had we had a handful of television shows. And so I use my creativity as survival, because what else do you do on a farm all day if you're a kid and you don't have television to watch? And because growing up in the country, we didn't really also have street lights. So when it was dark, when the sun went down, it was dark. So we weren't outside till 9 o'clock at night. When the sun went down, it was dark and we couldn't see our hands in front of us. So I had to really use my creativity to, I would say, transport myself to Hollywood, California. I would always think like, I'm going to live in Hollywood, California because of shows like Saved by the Bell and a lot of shows that were based in California. Now, I'm pretty sure I couldn't spell California at the time, but I was like, I'm going to live in California. And so whenever the sun went down and couldn't play outside, I would always be home just dreaming in my room, dreaming about California and the Hollywood sign and the mountain. Had never seen a mountain before in my life, but I built this whole life in my head. Oh, I'm going to travel the world. I'm going to speak other languages just like the people on television. I'm going to know celebrities. I'm going to be a celebrity. So this was like a 9 and 10-year-old kid who only had about 5 channels on the television. And I created this entire life just by those channels. And so I think the challenge is, lack of resources and even not knowing anybody. I knew no one that even lived outside of Tennessee, but in my head, I'm going to move across the country to California and I'm going to travel all around the world. And at the time, I didn't even know a passport was needed. What's a passport? I hadn't even been on an airplane. I mean, my mode of transportation was my family's tractor and the school bus. And so, but I had this dream and this goal to really just see the world and be this incredible person giving back all over.
Amazing. And I'm and you did bring up this, and I want to touch on this a little bit. Growing up with all of those challenges is one thing, but did you face racism as a challenge? Was that there when you were growing up? How did you kind of deal with it? What were the constraints of that when it came to your dreams?
Now, so Tennessee is the rural South, and we're about 30 minutes outside of Memphis, where, Martin Luther King Jr. was shot, where riots and police brutality. And so that was very frequent. I, on the other hand, didn't see any of that. And so the reason that I didn't see any of that is because I really wasn't around white people. I was around Black people. And so that shaped my childhood tremendously because I was able to learn and meet and see so many Black people that I didn't know that white people were like that. I had absolutely no idea because I wasn't around them. I am so grateful that I was shielded from that. And I think probably the only reason being shielded from it is because I guess we were too poor for people to even care. So that's just interesting in itself. Like, oh, we're not even gonna worry about them. Like, they're farmers. Like, they have a tractor and some animals and a little bit of land. So I really didn't encounter racism until I moved to California. And and it wasn't pretty. It wasn't pretty at all. And so once again, and then so even after, so growing up in the country, and I went to a Black college. So once again, I left home around Black people, went to college in the city, and it's an all Black college. So I'm like, okay, I don't get what this thing is about white people, because I don't know white people like that. Like, I just don't. I don't know racism, because I've been surrounded by and loved on and educated by and treated incredibly by Black people. And then it's like moving to California, and it's like, whoa, I'm being looked at crazy. I'm being followed in stores. I remember being in my car, and this is the first time that it really polarized me. So at the time in Los Angeles, I was driving a baby blue Mercedes, and I was parked. I'm parked. I'm on the phone with my mom. I was going to a client's house, and so I came a little early, so I just pulled to the side of the road. I'm on the phone talking to mom, because my mom, I'm the only child outside of the state of Tennessee. So my mama is always calling and texting and doing, and I'll talk about that later, which is the inspiration for the project that I'm doing. And so, and I was like, oh, Mom, let me call you back, because the police just pulled up. I'm not thinking anything of it. The police just pulled up. And so they were like, where are you going? I'm like, wait, excuse me? It was like, where are you going? And I was like, I'm going to a client's house. Who's your client and where do they live? And I'm like, what? And so what I found out later is that they saw a Black guy in the neighborhood. It was a very affluent neighborhood in Los Angeles. And they saw a Black guy, and one of the neighbors called the police while I was parked on the phone with my mama. And so I told them, so because I was familiar with the client, I didn't know the address because I go there so often. So I'm like, I said, well, you can follow me to their house. And they said, oh, you bet I will. I was blown away. I drove to the client's house. I went in the house, and they watched me walk in. And so I told the client what had happened, and they were friends or acquaintances at least with the chief of police. And so they were going to call and make a formal complaint. But I'm like, this is, and so then now I'm seeing everything. Once again, as I mentioned, being followed in stores, and even like, for an example, my first degree is in mathematics. And so even saying that I'm a mathematician, like, why are you asking me to prove that I'm a mathematician? Like that's none of your business. It has nothing to do while we're working. And so it's like, and I'm going to say something. I'm like, excuse me, where are your credentials? And so it's now so prevalent, Anton. It's so prevalent that I can't get away from it, because it's like a third eye has opened, and I see it everywhere. The microaggressions, the judgments, the belittling, the difference in prices, how we're treated, how we're talked to, how we are accused of everything. And this is just not of Black people. This is just of Black and brown people. Anybody who isn't white. And I'm just like, who told y'all that y'all were the gold standard and that we all have to try and measure up to you? I don't know who told them that. I have no idea. No idea. But it's bananas. And so now I'm getting to a place where I'm just trying to take it one day at a time, step by step, because if I continually think about it, it is exhausting. And mental exhaustion will just have you out for the count. Yeah.
Amazing. But it is such a challenge. A quick, for those of you who've just joined in, we are in conversation with Justin Key, right all the way from the USA, an artist, a published author, a D&I consultant, an entrepreneur, and a speaker, and are designed to bring inspiration through the backstories of modern day icons. And we are back with Justin. So taking all of that into context, when I understand it, it clearly left you with a bit of, bitter memories or bitter experiences, but it also certainly pushed you to drive further. But could you tell us about some of the contributory circumstances, or if it was just one pivotal incident that kind of got you onto onto track, onto your chosen field that you're in today? What was that turning point or that moment in time, Justin?
That turning point for me was, interestingly enough, my very first speaking engagement. I hadn't spoke before, and so I was asked to actually go back home, fly back home to Tennessee from California, and to speak at a school. And
nice.
I didn't think that I was successful. Matter of fact, not that I didn't think I wasn't. I just didn't think about it, period. And so now I go up to speak, and I'm seeing the reaction, and I'm seeing people take notes, and I'm seeing kids like get excited. And I'm like, wow. Wait, what? And then I was able to talk to the kids afterwards, and these kids are excited. Oh my God, I never thought I wanted to leave Tennessee. Now I want to leave Tennessee. And oh, I want to go to school and study this. And oh my goodness, I can't believe you've been to France before. And oh my goodness, like how was college? And how was it living in another city? Have you met any celebrities? And then I realized that I am in a very unique and blessed position to do what I do. And it would be a disservice to anyone who is looking for inspiration, who is looking for guidance, who is just looking for motivation, for me to say, oh, I'm not going to do that, or, you know, I don't feel like it today. And so just in that moment, seeing the light in the eyes of kids from elementary age to college age, to see them inspired by something that I've done that I didn't even think was inspirational. And I feel that it's now my duty to be as seen and heard as possible, to be a motivation and an inspiration, to let people know, honestly know that if I can do it, and I'm a little country boy from Tennessee, my parents aren't educated, my grandparents aren't educated, we didn't grow up with money. And so maybe my journey and the roadblocks that I stumbled over, maybe they can jump over now. And so I am excited to get in front of as many people as possible, to say what I learned, of course, add a little humor, a little charisma in there to make it interesting so that they don't, you know, fall asleep while I'm talking. But so it was that point that was like, okay, you can do this. Anyone that you motivate is going to change the world. And so I want to just be able to just set out as many world changers as possible, even if I have just a little bit even if I do just a little bit to inspire them and they do what they need to do, then I am happy and I fulfilled my purpose.
Justin, I mean, you still teach maths, or have you completely given that up?
So, you know what? So I don't teach math anymore. Okay. So, and I wish I could tell everybody that I don't teach math anymore, because people won't stop emailing me and texting me. So one very funny story. So today my gas went out, and so the gas company had to come. And so my sister is taking a class. And so my sister video called me and said, hey, I need you to solve this problem for me. And so I'm solving the problem. She and I are arguing a little bit. And so I see the gentleman from the gas company is cracking up at my sister and I solving math problems that she needs to solve for her job. And so though I don't, though I don't teach it, you know, I still dabble. I still speak about the benefits of studying STEM, you know, science, technology, engineering, mathematics, especially to Black and brown kids and minorities just all together.
Right. The reason I asked you, I mean, conventional wisdom always says, you know, stay with your area of speciality and focus on that. But then I take a look at your life, and I
Mhm.
see the zillion things that you do, and you know, honest to God, I would have needed another 20 minutes to run through all the things that you do and you've accomplished. But you do so many things. You dabble in so many areas, right? My
Mhm.
question, I guess, Justin, is how does it work? I mean, do they complement what you do, or do they conflict?
Mhm.
How do you prioritize? So, for example, if you had a speaking assignment, and if you've got a skit, which you're
Mhm.
also good with, because I understand, you know, you've worked side by side with the likes of Kevin Hart and Danny Glover, etc. So, you know, you do get called in for acting, you know, for skits. And if that happens, where is your
Mhm.
priority? How do you choose? How do you pick one over the other? Just asking.
Very good question. So acting is number one. Acting is number one, and so everything else is complementary to acting. And so, especially now when we're in a world where multi hyphenates are attractive, so which means that people want you to be able to do multiple things. So, like my agent loves that I speak, loves that I do all these other things because then he can then pitch me to casting directors. Oh, well, you know, Justin is actually a real mathematician because interestingly enough, there are acting jobs where the breakdown may say, we actually want a real mathematician if we can get one. And where do you find an actor that's a mathematician? Please hire me, cast me. And so that is everything that I do is a compliment to acting and to really just everything else. So because they are complements, unlike a significant number of people, I don't have to take an acting job to pay the bill. I get to choose which jobs I want to go out for because I have all of these other complements that will allow me to pay my bills, allow me to fulfill myself spiritually. And so all of these things, they're really just complementary of each other. And this is also what I want to just thank mathematics for, is because of my mathematics brain, I'm able to compartmentalize, I'm able to organize, I'm able to strategize everything. My mentors call me mentally ambidextrous. So being able to use both sides of the brain at will. And so I was like, oh, that's very interesting. But originally it wasn't like that. When I moved to LA 3 months after getting my degree in mathematics. So just
Okay.
imagine I'm a mathematician studying acting. It was a constant conflict. The actor wanted to be the center. The mathematician was like, hey, we have 4 years of studying. We can't throw that away. And so they kept battling. And my teacher was like, Justin, get out of your head. Act. Just do it. But I was too busy analyzing and being just very mathematical. And so now I've found a common place where the mathematician loves the actor loves the entrepreneur, and they just really work in tandem. They speak the same language. And I think that's how I'm able to really do so much. And Anton, I'm really happy. Like my soul is happy. My
Sure.
heart is happy. I really feel like I'm doing in this moment what I was put on this earth to do in this moment. I don't know what it's going to look like in 10 years, but I am going to follow it completely because I am in tremendous harmony with myself, with God, with the universe. It is working really, really well for me.
I'm glad you found that balance, right? But here is a question for you. How did your folks react to your acting
Ooh,
career?
that is a great. My family was livid. They were angry. And so, one thing about Southern families is not just the parents. So, it's everyone. So, I mentioned that I'm the eighth of nine kids. My mom is the third of 11, and my dad is the baby of
Oh,
14. So, that means I'm hearing from all of my aunts and uncles, on every single side. I'm hearing from all of my cousins. I'm hearing from everyone at church. Everybody had an opinion. Hollywood, you just got a degree in mathematics and now you're going to go to Hollywood to try to be an actor? Who said you was pretty enough to be on TV? So everybody had so much to say. And they were like, Hollywood, you've never been to California. We can't afford California. And I was like, I know, but I have to go. Like, I knew that my soul was there. I knew that my path was there. And they weren't happy. But as I mentioned earlier, my very first job that I booked a few months after graduating from studying acting was the face of Walmart for 5 years. And so my family was like, oh, we rich. He's going to be Denzel now.
Sounds like quite a number of, sounds like the families that we know too. So we can work with that. But Justin, what motivates you and drives you to do what you do on a daily basis with that kind of drive?
I think the best way to sum it up, there's a quote by Irma Bumbeck, and this quote pierced my entire soul. And it says, when I stand before God at the end of my life, I hope to not have a single bit of talent left so that I can say I used everything that you gave me. And
amen.
And that really, that spoke so much to me, because it was like, why am I doing all this? Why am I doing all of this? Because, you know, a lot of people say you're doing too much and, you know, you think you're so much. And so, and it's not that, because the foundation of everything that I do is service. Because once again, no one was trying to help me as a kid growing up on a farm in rural Tennessee. People didn't even know I existed. And so that's why whenever I go back home, I accept almost every speaking engagement. Now, sometimes my agent and manager is like, Justin, they can't afford your rate. Let's not do it. And I'm like, no, forget that. There are kids there who just, maybe especially if they're Black, they just need to see someone Black doing something. Because we know the media portrays Black and brown people in such a negative light that if I can go in front of that school or that auditorium or even that classroom and just sit down and talk to them and talk to them just like I'm talking to now, because, you know, kids are very funny and very, very honest. There's like, you look like LeBron James. And I'm like, okay. And then it was like, do you have his money? And I was like, no, I'm no basketball player. And so these kids are so, and then I was like, oh, well, I got a degree in math. They're like, ew, he likes math. And I was like, do you know how cool math is? And so just talking and just letting them see that there's a down-to-earth human who cares about them. And so these kids follow me on social media and they DM me and say, hey, I want to do this and I want to do that. How can I do this? How can I do that? And I'm happy because, Anton, I didn't have that. I didn't have any of that. I had to build the blueprint myself. I had to move to Hollywood, California from a farm. I was terrified, but I still felt like that was my purpose. And so my purpose and that pool superseded the fear that I had.
Sure. I mean, so Rain Man 2 is coming up and they're looking for auditions, and I'm definitely sending your name across.
Please.
From that to LeBron James. So there is, so let's look at it this way, huh? So there is talent and there's certainly passion. I'm going to throw you a curve here. So talent versus passion, which trumps which? What's your take on that?
Ooh, let me take a second.
Do we go into commercial break?
No, talent versus passion. Ooh, that is a good one. I'm gonna say passion. Why? I am going to say passion, and the reason that I'm going to say passion is because when things get difficult, when the pressure seems too much, when the risk seems too high, passion will get you over the finish line. Talent won't. Passion is the thing that's going to make you stay up all night learning the script. It's going to have you staying up all night finishing that manuscript. You know, I'm in Hollywood where you have to look a certain way on camera. Passion is what keeps me in the gym, not my talent for acting. I have to have passion before I can even act. Else, if I don't have passion for the industry, then I won't even think about strengthening my talent to even go in there. So I'm definitely going to have to go with passion on this one. Passion for 1,000 Alex.
Thank you for that. So on that note, for those who've joined in, we are in conversation with Justin Key, an artist, a published author, an entrepreneur, a D&I consultant, and a speaker. An hour designed to bring inspiration through the backstories of modern day icons. So Justin, thank you for that. So I'm going with passion, and I think you've nailed it. So let's go into your recent ventures of speaking. I know you've got inspired by doing a stint for the kids back in Tennessee, but you've taken speaking to another level now that, you know, in California and around. Can I just sort of go into why did you take speaking per se? But I know you have that experience, but I guess the real question is, does it make a difference to the audience? In your opinion, what would you do different? How does it benefit?
So speaking for me, I didn't know, first, I didn't know that you could even have a career in speaking. I didn't think that was a thing. I didn't know that was a thing. And so going into it, originally I was just accepting, like, oh, can you come and speak to the class? Like, oh, you're kind of successful. Oh, you're on billboards. You know, you're a Black mathematician. Oh, you have your own company. Kids are asking about starting their own business. And I'm like, okay, if I got something to say, I'll say it. And then I was like,
Sure.
wow. Yeah. And then, so, you know, training it professionally in acting, speaking is what I do for a living. And so I found that correlation between acting and speaking. And then I'm from humble beginnings. So my entire life I've been talking to people. I grew up in the church, so I've been talking in church this entire time. And so speaking was really just the natural next step. And so even thinking about myself as a business and as a brand, you want to be attractive to, once again, agents and managers. So the agent's like, oh, I can then submit you for acting jobs. I can also submit you for speaking jobs. And so once I allowed my passion for motivating and inspiring people, especially if I can do multiple at one time. So instead of just one-on-one, if I can accept a speaking gig for a college or university, then I get to touch, inspire, and motivate numerous people, countless people. And so that's just allowing me to further my passion. And then, of course, doing it professionally, knowing how to write, because, you know, you want to write out your speeches, you want to memorize your speeches, but also you want to be flexible and changing to complement the audience, complement the subject matter. And when I realized that, you know, I have confidence in my ability to talk about mathematics or STEM. I have confidence in my ability to talk about acting or the entertainment industry, as well as entrepreneurship and business. And so, and even just about life, just being a Black man in America. Once I was able to formulate my thoughts and you know, talking, you know, even while being a college professor, you know, I'm speaking, I'm lecturing, I'm doing Q&A all the time. And so all of these things combine to really create Justin Key, the speaker. And I'm grateful for that. And, you know, it's been lucrative. It's been personally, emotionally, spiritually fulfilling, especially because I get to network and meet people I'm meeting you. So like just that alone, like I am extremely um blessed for that, because I don't know where this relationship is going to go. I'm not even going to even think about where it can go. I am just along for the ride. And so because I am a speaker, it has allowed me to meet so many different people and to interact with so many people. And so it's really, it's another part of me fulfilling my purpose, in my opinion.
So that's Justin Key, the speaker. Let's look at Justin Key, the entrepreneurship enthusiast. And you just mentioned that. So I want to pick on that. As what inspires you there? What is it that's unique about that particular piece of activity that you do?
Entrepreneurship, I absolutely love it. I did not know what entrepreneurship was. I'm pretty sure that I didn't even know how to spell it when I first heard it. And it I didn't know what it was. I originally I fell into entrepreneurship. So I'm in Los Angeles, I'm acting, and then a writer's strike happened in Los Angeles. So that means no one was working. If the A-listers weren't working, the Z-listers like myself, who had just graduated, was definitely not working. So then I had to find out how to make money, how to live. And so I used that degree in mathematics and I started a tutoring company. And so the tutoring company, and I was like, oh, I'm just going to have this for about a year because I'm going to be Denzel Washington in a year. So, but within a year, the company grew ridiculously. And so I have like about 10 employees. I have clients all over the place. But by this time, acting is also going well. So now I'm on set, I'm sending in payroll, I'm making sure that the client is satisfied, I'm making sure the tutor feels safe, I'm making sure the kid is learning, everybody is paid. And I was like, this is a lot. I'm like, this is a lot. And so I'm like, how do people do multiple businesses? And then I realized because I fell into entrepreneurship, I didn't know the step-by-step model that I needed to really be successful. So then that's when I decided to go back to school. I'm a nerd. I learned better in classroom settings. So like I know some people, they can learn by, watching a series of videos on YouTube. I'm a different learner. I'm more of the traditional kind. So I went back to school and got my MBA in entrepreneurship.
Nice.
And then I learned, I was like, oh, I know what the problem was. I didn't have an exit strategy. I didn't have everything set up. I spent too much money in the beginning. I didn't know how to scale. I knew nothing about business. And so once I graduated with my MBA, that next year I dissolved the tutoring company because I realized that, oh, if I'm going to do entrepreneurship, I'm going to do it right. And then from there, I really just flipped it. And I was like, well, Justin, why don't you be your own product? And because me being my own product, I'm like, okay. So because essentially I hire my agent, my manager, my publicist, as well as my attorney. So I'm really a business. And so then I started looking at myself. I started writing up a business plan for me as the product, as the service, as the business, like basically Justin Key Incorporated. So that comes in with acting, that goes in with speaking, that goes in with writing and publishing books, that goes in with doing audiobooks, that also goes in with modeling. There's so many different facets to the products that a business creates. Just like, Walmart has multiple products in store, Target, Nike has multiple shoes and jerseys and clothes. So what is going to be Justin, the entrepreneur? What are going to be my products and my services? And so I now flipped it because I didn't know that was even a thing for me to be an entrepreneur and for me to be a whole business just myself, because I only thought about traditional brick and mortar stores. Like, oh, this is a business. Can something really live online? What is a person? Can a person be a business? And so a person really can be a business. And I just love that entire entrepreneurship, career, life, world.
Interesting though, because Now that you've ventured into that, and you're sort of able to help others too, not just Justin Key, the product, you wrote about, well, you spoke about writing, and I'm curious, what got you into it, A, and B, tell us a little bit about this book that you've written, because I'm curious to know. Mind Control and Limitless Life. I know it's something you clearly believe in. Tell us a little bit about that, though.
So, I never considered myself a writer. I wrote for a lot of publications. In school, graduate school, you write a lot. And I mean, I wrote because I was asked to do it. And then, I wrote for fun, for publications, but I really didn't think I would take on the title as writer. And so I would travel a lot. And so I would also notice in the contracts, it's like, oh, if you want to sell a book, or if you have a product that you want to sell, it's like a book. I didn't think anything of it. And so after speaking at universities all around the country, and they was like, oh, where can I purchase your book? And I'm like, why is everybody asking about a book? Who's writing a book? I'm just happy that I booked a speaking gig. And so then I did my research and realized that almost every writer has a book or multiple books or products that they sell. And so I said, oh, that's why that is always in the contract. So interestingly enough, Anton, I wrote a book. I wrote my book, Mind Control. And I sat on it for a whole year. Why? Because I'm like, no one's going to read a book for me. You know how we always, thinking of ourselves, and I'm like, no one's going to read a book. I'm a country kid from a farm. And so randomly, I got a message on Facebook. And so this young lady said, Justin, she said, Justin, I've been following you for a while, and I really think what your brand need is a book. And she said, I'm not saying this because I'm a book editor, but I'm saying this because I am a book editor, and I know when people need something for their brand. And I follow you and I see what you say, and I just wish that everything that you say could really be in a book. Anton, I didn't even respond to her. I looked her name up because I didn't know her. I didn't really know her well. You know how you just have some friends on social media that you just don't know? I looked her name up. I went to LinkedIn. I pulled up her LinkedIn profile. I pulled up her email address. I emailed her the manuscript to Mind Control. And I said, hey, send me an invoice for your editing. She emailed back immediately. You've been sitting on a book this entire time? And so, because it would be still in my draft folder on my computer, because I was never going to say anything. I was probably never going to publish it. And that was God saying, Justin, I've been trying to get your attention and you're ignoring me. So let me put someone else in your path. And so sent her the book. She emailed back and she was like, oh my goodness. She was like, I'm in tears emailing you. She's like, and I never do this. I'm typically very professional, but what you're saying in this book, thank you so much. This is exactly what I needed to hear. And, and I was like, what? Because I didn't, the books, when you're writing, like, they're our thoughts. You're not necessarily thinking about the impact. I'm just getting out what's in my head. And it has been a blessing to me. From what others tell me, it's been a blessing to them. And I'm grateful. I'm humbled, because only thing I think about is that, that kid running around barefoot on the farm, driving the tractor and feeding the chickens. And, now people are like, Justin, I want to buy your book. It's still mind blowing to this day, Anton. It's still mind blowing.
I've got to ask you this, right? And we did touch on this earlier on, and I said you keep juggling so many, and they're not idle or dormant, right? They're all active stuff that you keep doing. What is, and this is, and I'm mindful of time, so the last two questions for you though. What is the secret of time management for you, Justin? How in the world do you juggle so many things, still be able to sit back and have this conversation with me? What is that secret? Do tell, do share that with us. I want to know.
You know what? Interesting. I'm asked quite often about time management, and my brain goes blank every single time someone asks me that question. But what I will say, I think my success with time management comes from my morning routine. And prior to COVID, pre-COVID, in a pre-COVID world, my days typically start at 4:30 a.m. I once again, I grew up on a farm, so I woke up with the roosters. As soon as the chickens started singing, crowing, whatever you want to call it, I was up. So now I'm up at 4:30 prior to COVID, because now I don't have to get up as early because I'm not traveling as much. 4:30, my alarm goes off. I get a glass of water, and then I pray and I meditate, and I center my entire day. And from there, because I am pretty organized, I typically meal prep on Sundays for the entire week. So my food is already prepared. I pack my gym bag the night before. So it's like clockwork. I get up, I drink water, I read, I pray, I meditate, and then I'm off to the gym. I work out. Once again, my food is already meal prepped and prepped in my bag. And so then my day gets started. So let's say if I don't have anything, anywhere to go or be, by 9 a.m., my day is typically done. So just in that time frame of getting my morning routine and my foundation together, then from there, I take calls, I do podcast interviews, I go on auditions, I, talk to my parents, I'm interviewing, I'm doing all these other things. And if it's a day where I have to film or if I have to be on set, I typically control my schedule. So that means I'll either I'll still do my meditation in the morning, and then I have to go and be on set at some weird early time, whether it's 6 or sometimes it's 5, or sometimes my call time is at midnight. And I fix that schedule to adjust to my morning foundation. So I don't touch my phone until after I prayed and meditated. I really do center myself. And so I think what time management is, and it's technology. I have reminders in my phone to slow down. I have reminders to drink water. I have my to-do list, and it works really, really well. And I get my sleep. I eat well so that, bad food or, not now. I still eat my fried foods. I drink my sweets, and I'm a fan of red wine. I'm not going to let any of that go. But I do eat healthy enough to where, I still sleep very easily. Like I'm not up all night like, oh, I can't go to sleep. Like, oh, I sleep. I get my 7 hours in. It fluctuates depending on what I have to do. I get things done. I'm very efficient, and that goes back to mathematics and I'm very organized, not to a fault where if something happens, and I think that's where the actor in me comes in, where because if it was just a mathematician and my schedule is messed up, I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't do this. But with the actor's like, chill out, Justin. Just be free. The actor's a free spirit, and the mathematician is like, it's the warden. And so now with them complementing each other, the mathematician helps me to organize things, and then the actor gives me the right attitude and the personality to really fill in those rigid spots.
So we've got Justin the speaker, Justin the author, Justin the entrepreneurship enthusiast, and Justin the X, Y, and Z. But I'm going to touch on something before we wind down. Your latest project, Mama Knows Best. I have a feeling that There's a lot behind that. So do tell us, what is this about? Where
So
did this come from?
Mama Knows Best, that I am extremely proud of. Mama Knows Best is being turned into an animated television show. So about 7 years ago, I
Wow.
made a random post on Facebook, a very random post. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm the eighth of 9 kids. I am the only child that does not live in the state of Tennessee. And so my mom is on me constantly. And also because I'm in Hollywood and people are really nice to me. And matter of fact, people have always been nice to me my entire life. But my mom wants to make sure that I don't become Hollywood. And so Anton, she's on me constantly about the smallest things. And so I made a post on Facebook about a conversation that she and I had, and how she was really laying into me about something. It wasn't even serious, but she was acting as if the world was going to end. And so the post went viral. And every time I make a post on social media, everyone is like, what does your mom say about that? Ooh, your mom is going to get you. Ooh, I can't wait to meet your mom. And so like they were really hounding me. Oh my goodness, your mom. So I just started writing random conversations that my mom and I would have, and I would just showcase to her, showcase to everyone on social media, like, this is the conversation between myself and my mom. And apparently it was funny. And then a producer, Keith Seymour, reached out and said, hey, I really love the conversations that you post. What do you want to do with it? And I was like, what do I want to do with it? I mean, I'm just talking about my mama. I don't know. What do you mean? He was like, so we met, and so we decided to turn it into a comedy audiobook. And so Mama Knows Best is, you can purchase it anywhere, and it's just conversations between myself and my mom. And I was able to cast Deborah Wilson, which she was the star of Mad TV, an incredible actress, incredible comedian. And so she plays my mom on the audiobook. And so it's she and I going back and forth. And so now, because of the popularity from the conversations on social media, from the audiobook, so now we're meeting with networks. Me and a couple of producers are meeting with networks to try and get it turned into an animated television series.
Wow. What does your mom think about that?
My mom was like, how much am I getting paid for that? Because you're talking about me. And I'm like, Mama, you're taken care of. Don't worry about it. But it's so interesting because it has become really popular. My mom is approached a lot. My mom does not do the whole Hollywood thing. And so she'll be in the grocery store and people like, aren't you Justin's mom? And she's like, whoa, back up, people. And so she's still getting used to people talking to her in public and just walking up and having these conversations. And it's not even a television show yet. And so the only people that even know that she's my mom is really the people on my Facebook. It hasn't transferred onto other worlds or anything like that. And so she's excited. She's excited. She's been watching this journey from the very beginning. Everything is exciting, sure. But she's also very skeptical, like, who are these people? Why are these people walking up? And so whenever I go back home for like an award show, she comes with me. And nice. Well, sometimes. So she's there and people talk to her. She was like, you sure you talking about Justin Key? So yeah. So we're excited. We're excited about what's to come.
Justin, I am mindful of the time, and you've already, been gracious enough. Just before we wrap this up, what's next, or where to from here for Justin Key?
Where to from here and what's next for Justin Key? So my goal is, at the beginning of November, the audiobook for Mind Control will be launched everywhere. So I'm prepping now for the audiobook launch of Mind Control. Also, right. I am really getting a lot into the voiceover world. So I really want to do more voiceovers. I just booked a really big campaign that I signed an NDA that I can't talk about right now, but I'm really excited to really get more into the voiceover world. And I want to get Mama Knows Best on television so that you and everyone else can see it, have it reflect, about relationships between a mom and her son, families, and make it funny and make it relatable to everyone. And so that's what I'm looking forward to.
Oh, brilliant. I think we can't wait to see that. So Justin, thank you very, very much for that, I would say entertainment, for really carving out a moment in time from your undoubtedly busy schedule. And if anyone doubts the kind of things that you've been balancing on a day-to-day basis, today would clear that doubt. I can honestly say that this hour has been a thrilling ride indeed. And what stories and some amazing takeaway of pure inspiration. So thank you very much for that. We're really grateful. To our audience, thank you for staying tuned in, and I hope you enjoyed this segment as much as I did. We do have another interesting personality lined up for the segment next week. Do watch our social media spaces for the links to join in. And if you missed a part of this conversation, it will be up on our LinkedIn and YouTube channels. Do visit and subscribe, hit the notification button and stay updated. And remember to share. A quick shout out to our technology partners, H1. Samath and his team, thank you very much for going strong with our third season. With this, I bid you a wonderful rest of the day. Stay safe, stay productive.